Hello, and welcome back to a new episode of the Security Podcast. I'm Giorgio. In case this time you join us, and this is a very little project of mine where I invite cool people from the security industry in order to have just a chat about some of the latest stories of the cybersecurity field. Um, you know, in case you don't know the format, this is the idea. We just collected a series of news we're going to discuss about, and I invited a very special guest today, which should be here in a second. Hello, Dev. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, and I always joke about this that we like pretend this is the first time we meet, even though we were just speaking a few seconds ago. Um,
Yeah,
but that's okay. So thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to introduce yourself to the public just very briefly?
sure. My name is Devendranath Cherguri, and I'm working as a currently. I'm sorry. Currently, I'm working as an IT security analyst in operations, and I've been in this industry for more than 9 years, 9 plus years. So I'm actually famous for my cybersecurity community, which is called that cybersecurity dude. So I started this community like a year ago, online in Instagram. So I just started it off like to help raise awareness or help people who's going through some online scams or something like that. But that went that went viral, all my posts, and now I have like more than 50,000 followers online. Everything included YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. So yeah, that's pretty much about me. I try work in cybersecurity and try to help people not to fall into online scams.
That's very good, and it's very nice. I'll put your links in the description of the video in case anyone
Thank you.
doesn't know you. And I appreciate your the mission, the reason why you're doing this, because I think it's kind of similar to what I'm doing it right here. I like to think that we're really having a discussion that can be helpful for the people who are in the industry and maybe who are still not in the industry and maybe are still in that learning process before finding the first job. So yeah, that's great. We have few news. I'll just summarize them in case you're interested. We had three news. First one is talking about a very interesting and newish scam that is running on Facebook about what they are calling funeral streaming scam. The second one we are going to talk about a very special CTF that allegedly they run in China, which could be affecting some real targets in there. So it could be a real espionage activity, exploiting the participants. And finally, the very big news that we had last week about pagers exploding, in Lebanon, which there was some discussion regarding it's kind of a cyber attack, it's not, or maybe we will speak about that. So that said, this is the agenda for today, and we will start with the first one just in a second after I can share my screen. I see some comments in there. Hi guys, thank you for joining. This is the first news, as I mentioned before. This is a piece from Krebs Security that I always actually suggest everyone to read because it's very good. He was basically informed by some of their readers that there's this very kind of sketchy scam where scammers are basically taking photos and information from someone who recently died, and they create a group on Facebook. They invite all of the friends of the deceased person, and they basically say that they are streaming the funeral event live on the group. And in order to access the allegedly streaming, all the user asked to basically put their paying card data even before accessing any kind of streaming. And of course, there actually isn't any streaming service behind that, because no one has really requested the kind of service. And this appear very, very common. There's a lot of research inside the article that I'll also put in the description for you to read, where there's a lot of there's some investigation regarding who is involved, how many scams are ongoing like this, and there are many of them. So I'll stop there because I usually talk too much, and I just want to hear from you. What's your, what were your first thoughts when reading about this? Is this something you've seen before?
No, this is the first time I'm hearing. But the thing is, scammers always find something new to go exploit users. So this is something new for you. But the thing is, like, I came when I started my page, I used to get like a lot of messages from my followers saying like, "Hey, I got scammed in this way, I got scammed in that way," or different ways the scammers use. So the whole idea is like, basically, it's user that we have to educate in the end. So unless the users are educated, this scammers come up with a new ideas or new ways to scam people. But something that's so to be frank, when it comes to the funeral streaming on Facebook, what it comes is like, when someone want to scam you, it's either through emotionally or through urgency. So they choose two
Right.
ways. So people, when they are in urgent or when they're emotionally weak or something like that, they don't look at the details of like what they're getting into or what they're signing up or what the information they are sharing. They just don't care about it. They just go for it, and they share their credit card information or personal information. So yeah, these kind of scams always pops up. Like, so for example, like last week I posted like, one of my friend posted, "Hey, I'm open to work," and all of a sudden he popped up with like three different recruiters saying that, "Hey, we can help you get you a job," like within seconds he posted. So there is like something running in behind the
Yeah.
LinkedIn, like bots or something. That's the first time I heard about it. Yeah, scammers always choose something, who what people always, when they are emotional, when they have some urgency, or when they are something looking for like job or something like a money or something like that. Yeah.
It's curious. I mean, it could be curious. I pretty much every episode or so, I always have at least one news regarding phishing, scams, or similar scenarios. And the thing is, even though this is probably the oldest thing ever, right? Phishing is probably the vector that was used from the very beginning of cybersecurity, if you want. There's always something new. There's always like a very different approach, a very different scenario where you never think about that. Even though we are in the industry, I understand that possibly we are more aware, more savvy, but still, in a scenario like this where you have a friend or just someone close to you that is recently dead, this is a state of your mind that is not at the highest, of course, right? Because as you said, they're trying to leverage on the fact that you have some emotions on you at that moment that do not make you think clearly and with logic. And this is one of those, right? You maybe think, oh, I didn't know about this, and there is the streaming online, and there's something written that pretty close to the end of the article. It's very interesting. What about someone really think, oh, this is true, and doesn't go to the actual funeral because they think they're going to watch it remotely, and it's of course it's going to end up to be a scam. So you're not going to watch it, and you actually miss the funeral of a close friend or something. This could be even worse than just losing the money, right? And of course, there's the thing that they are not probably asking for just a payment rather than possibly cloning your card or just collecting the data so they can collect everything in it. So it's pretty tough, definitely. Yep. Okay. So it's something that there's something new every here and there, and even though we know the characteristics of these scams, there are some there's always some very red flags that you can identify. And do you expect something like this? Did you know this was coming? If not, that's probably not real. And this is something that you can only be prepared to if you are aware of what are the red flags, and if you're aware that even in this specific scenario this could happen, right? I didn't know about funeral streaming things. Now I know it. I'm discussing this live with all of you, so possibly you are aware. You can talk with the other people as well.
Yep.
And that could spread a little bit.
It's not only this, like doesn't matter whatever you do online. It's either like for example, I sold my car last year, so I haven't I don't know, like there are car scams that runs in Canada or USA or something like that. So when I tried to sell my car, I listed in Facebook Marketplace, and I got like few requests from users saying that, hey, we're gonna buy your car. I was like, yeah, definitely, and we shared some details and everything. So they started asking me for Carfax report. So I said, like, yeah, I do have a Carfax report. I'm going to share it with you. And they said, like, no, we don't need the Carfax report. We need some other report. They just shared me some random website. And they said, like, hey, this provides the latest details about your car. So we need a report from this. You just have to pay $20 or something. So I checked up the websites. And these domains are created like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. These are very new domains. So I don't even know until I sell my car, like this is something that's going on in Facebook Marketplace. So they end up just paying like $20. They think like, hey, it's only just $20. So I was like, I'll pay it. I get the report. I'll just share it. I'll sell my car. It's not a big deal. But in the if you say it in the back end, that's like a huge scam. Like they're scamming a lot of people, and people don't even know about it, and nobody can do anything about it because they're new domains. They can just close immediately. They just use some Stripe kind of payment methods or something. They just cash it and get out of the scam. It's like nobody knows where it's coming from. It's like hard to track them. Even if I give a police complaint, there's like even police cannot do so much. It's like if it is one IP, if it is one domain, they could do something. But every day there's so many IPs and new domains coming into the online. So it's not only funeral homes. It's like whatever you do online, scams are everywhere. So you just have to keep an eye on like what you're dealing with or what you're getting into. Simple, very simple things like look it up in the website saying that, hey, is it HTTP or HTTPS? And even if it is HTTPS, like a legit looking websites. And even in the funeral streaming groups, I see like in the last paragraph they said like the first whole page looks like a legit page, but when it comes to the end, like a contact detail, it's just showing like a Lorem Ipsum or something like that. So they didn't even finish the website. It's like there is somewhere you can find out if it is a legit website or it's a scam website. So you just have to keep an eye on it. So I know people, when they're emotional or when they're like something in urgency or something, like they don't look at all those details. But whenever they're dealing something online, it's better to look at like very few minute details of like what they're getting into, like at least the payment gateways they're paying, like is it a legit payment gateway, or is it something new, they never looked at it. Or at least if they don't know, if they are not a techie person, I always suggest my followers something like talk to someone who knows about this. Like there is a techie friend in all of our like circles, so talk to him, ask him, hey, if this is a legit website, and if he thinks a legit website, yeah, then you can proceed. But if you don't know, it's better to ask someone. But if you know, it's better to stop, take a few seconds and look at the websites and see if it is a legit one or not. The thing is, people think sometimes like it's only a couple of dollars, it's not a big deal. But the thing is, like they're sharing a lot of information. It's just not a couple of dollars. They're sharing their credit card information, they're sharing their personal information and phone numbers, addresses. It's like, I don't know, whatever they're looking for, scammers looking for, So even if scammers opening the page like funeral homes, that means there is somewhere a leak of their personal information. So they know someone passed away at a certain time, and they know they're having a funeral like process happening at a certain place, certain time. So our data is already outside. We cannot do anything about it. And even if your data is like some good company, let's say for example, some reputed, let's say for example, ChatGPT, you never know how when it will get hacked or when it will get data leaked. You never know. Your data is going to get leaked online. Your data is going to be outside. You just have to learn how to deal with it. So that's pretty much what I tell to my followers all the time. It's like, we cannot do anything about it. We cannot stop every company breach. So we just have to be careful, and we just have to be mindful when visiting these websites, or falling
Well,
into the scams.
the you mentioned it, the people that say something like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. I just lost a few dollars or something."
Yeah.
I think they do not consider the big picture, right? The thing is that even though you maybe lose just, let's say, a small amount of money, which is not always true, sometimes it could be a lot. The thing is that you are just one of the hundred thousands of people which are being scammed, and altogether this is, and most of the time you have an organization behind this kind of things. It just it's not one person most of the time, and you are really, let's say, financing a business, a sketchy and illegal business that is doing a lot, is collecting a lot of money from a lot of people, many of which maybe don't have the same amount of money you have. So maybe that small amount of money for you is not the same for someone else who is losing that same amount of money. And altogether, all of that money is possibly even financing a lot of other sketchy businesses which are much worse. We actually had similar news in the previous episode that I invite everyone to maybe go and watch, where this could be something that doesn't appear very bad or that sketchy, but at the same time the same people that are doing this are possibly doing much worse, and you're basically financing them in order to run other operations, which we really don't want to. So I think that should be something we should take in mind. And when you mentioned it, when it comes to identifying the scams, it's true that maybe we are not all techies, we are not all aware of everything. At the same time, the moment you have just a single red flag, just a single alarm, that's just a very tiny thing that makes you think, "Oh, what's this? I was not expecting it." At that point, you should at least do a Google search to understand, "Oh, how can I verify something is legitimate?" Or I should reach out to my techie friend and maybe ask for some help, which is always for me the best thing to do. Even in the article, the author said that the person who found out about the scam reached out to a friend, and she said, "Oh, this happened to be a few weeks ago for another friend of mine who died, and it ended up to be a scam." So maybe someone else already fall for it and can save you, right? So if you only have just a tiny red flag, that should at least lead you to do more research and to verify a little more. So that's probably the key in my opinion.
True. Also, one more thing,
Well,
scammers always try to gather as much as information as possible. So even when you're entering your phone number, you think like, "Hey, it's just my phone number. It's everywhere. What's a big deal?" So they just try to connect the dots about you. Like, for example, they don't target one single person like in one area, but the thing is, like, they target like multiple people from one area. So for example, the city I live, there's like maybe 100 or 100,000 people. So there will be some scamming organizations sitting somewhere in like North Korea or somewhere in the other part of the world, trying to target the people in here. So they try to extract as much as information as possible. So it doesn't matter. They will try to gather it from one website. It might be multiple websites that you're visiting. So they collect your phone number from one website, they collect your full name from one website, and they collect where you work from one website. They try to connect all these dots, and then they try to do scams on you. So they say they will just call you all of a sudden and say like, "Hey, we are calling from IRS," and say like, just to verify, this is your phone number, this is your full name, this is your address, and you think it's legit. And you think like only IRS people have all my information, and why would the scammers have all my information? So you think that's a legit one, and you start sharing your information. So this is just an example, but that's how scamming works. So doesn't matter where you're sharing your information, even at your local grocery store, if they're asking for your information, don't share it. Just ask them, why do you need my information? They will say some story, say like, but this is the reason we're doing a survey. I was like, I don't want to involve in survey. Just don't share your information. Just leave it. That's it. That's a simple answer. Because I was looking for jobs a couple of years ago, and I tried as a cybersecurity person. I was like, I try to avoid from all the scams and everything. It's like I never got a scam call. So when I started applying for the jobs, somewhere my data got leaked. I know I'm applying for the legit companies, but I don't know. Somehow my data got leaked, and all of a sudden I started getting calls from scammers saying like, "Hey, we have a job offer. You have to pay this. You have to do that." Something like. I was wondering how my data got leaked. Then I identified like a couple of jobs that I applied. Just like they are not real companies. I don't even know them. I
Oh,
just they are in the LinkedIn and they have a premium membership and they have like good amount of followers, like 500 to 1,000 followers. So later, what I understand is they are legit companies, but they are not looking for the new hires. They are not looking to hire someone. They're just trying to collect the information. So they just keep reposting all the time. So this is how people get. They just try to get as much information as possible. So we just have to be careful.
That's the thing, right? Even
Yeah.
though, once again, sharing just a piece of information doesn't sound like a big deal. The point is, every time you share that same piece of information, you're just exposing yourself more to more and more scams that are coming. So you share your phone number once, and maybe two more people will get it, and those two more people could try to scam you once again with other types of scam, and that's something that uh, gets bigger and bigger every time. And at some point, and it happened to people that I know, at some point you just need to change number because you need to
Yeah.
start from scratch, and that's something you don't want to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, as we said multiple times, awareness
Yeah.
is probably the only thing. Now I think we're good to go to the next piece of news. I know, every of these topics we could possibly talk about it for hours, but the part of the project here is to give you also those news every week. So I just want you to see this one as well, which is pretty interesting. So the second news for tonight, depending on where you are, it's talking about China once again, unfortunately. The thing is that a couple of researchers, which are, let's say, investigating how CTFs are being used in China. And if you don't know, CTF stands for Capture the Challenge. They are some competitions that are very common in the cybersecurity industry, where people are challenged to a series of different exercises to demonstrate their skills and knowledge, and they're very commonly used also in order to find some competent and skilled people that you can hire later on, right? That's something that companies do. That's something that even states are doing in order to find people to hire for their own secret services, armies, and so on and so forth. And apparently, this has become something very common in China in order to increase their cyber capabilities. So they're running this kind of context very often. And one specific of these challenges recently was identified, and the very interesting thing about it was that there were a couple of interesting points. So first of all, all the participants were asked to not talk about anything happening basically during the challenge, to not share anything about their own findings, to not talk about what kind of exercises they were doing, or else they would have been legally prosecutable uh, in case they did. So something pretty uh, pretty serious, let's say. And the other thing was that you usually have a company who is providing the infrastructure for the exercises, right? Because you want to do this kind of exercises in a safe environment when doing the exercises, you do not do any real damages to a real network. So someone is really creating and designing the infrastructure where you run the exercises. And this time, no such company was involved or advertised in any way, which is uncommon. And these the things made the researchers think, you know what? The only reason why I think this could happen is that where the target is a real target. So the assumption here, of course, there is nothing confirmed, but it's an interesting topic, nevertheless, is that possibly China was running a real espionage campaign or operation, and they were basically hiring students and people out of universities and so on and so forth in order to run the espionage itself. And that's the reason why they didn't want anyone to share any information about it, because possibly they were just leveraging that kind of skills and power and knowledge. And all of those people, of course, because you can have people to do something very serious, some very serious involvement. Once again, I talk too much as often, so I'll thoughts about it. What do you think?
To be frank, after reading the article, I don't see any evidence that suggesting China's really targeting some real world companies in the CTF. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, obviously, it's China's democratic country, and they will have their own rules. Like they don't have to share the information to outside world, and that's honestly that doesn't look really concerning for me, because just by asking your students to sign something. No, not leaking the information to the outside world, that's not a big deal actually. And of course, it's if it is in United States or Canada, they want to do something like they want to release their findings for the research purposes and other stuff, but it's China, they don't want to leak their information, and I don't see a bit um yeah, that's my view. I don't see a big problem with it. But the thing is, like, again, as you said, they might be recruiting for military purposes. They might be, that's one of the reasons they don't want to, share the information with the real world. So, yeah, if you ask me, I don't see much something that's wrong with
No,
this CTF challenge.
No, that's totally okay. This is actually very good for me because I want to see different kind of opinions and things. I kind of agree with you. If you read the article, even though the article is pretty well written, there's no real evidence about it.
Yeah.
They're not really demonstrating the thing, and it's more like let's say an assumption, excluding all of the alternatives that the researcher found out. They also say that they're going to publish the results of the research during a conference. So I'm really curious to see the final results. Maybe they have something more that is not written in the article. And I just think the the topic itself is very interesting, right? This could be or could not be the case, of course. Possibly not, but at the same time, and this is also specified in the article, something that is known is that China specifically has used this kind of competition, in the last, let's say, 10 years in order to develop their cyber capabilities. This is a thing. And I think it's very interesting because I don't think everyone is really thinking about this competition this way, right? Most of the time we have this competition like, this is kind of a game, right? I do it as an hobby. I know a lot of people who are doing it as an hobby. And at the same time, we are, and I am, myself, suggesting to do this kind of challenges to people who are still learning, right? And they think this is a way of training, but it is true that there are organizations out there that are looking at participants to these challenges in order to possibly hire them in any kind of business. Could be legitimate, could be less legitimate, could be backed by a state, and depending if you agree with that government, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. All right. So for me, it's interesting, this way of using this kind of competitions, and I'm not
So
sure everyone is aware about it.
yeah. One thing I learned, like as a security analyst, is like you have to connect the dots for each and every case. It doesn't have to be a security incident, or it doesn't have to be something, a scam or something. You just have to connect the dots. But if you think like an attacker, for example, you like, let's say if I am the Chinese government, and if I have like a world class hackers in my desk, like in my room, why would I go for something CTF, announce to the world, hey, we are doing something CTF, and then target the real world companies? You know what I'm saying? If I really wanted to do something, attack the real world companies, why would I do it publicly? Or why would I share all this information saying like, hey, you have to participate in the CTF, but don't share the information or something like that? You know, it doesn't have to be something negative always, but you just have to think it in a different ways.
I mean, I could potentially argue, and this is for the sake of the conversation, of course, I could argue that, I mean, many events happening in China, I'm not sure I will call them public, because this is something some researchers have, gathered with their investigation, their knowledge is not as easily gathered by anyone else. So that depends. At the same time, if I think about this as, once again, not an espionage operation by itself, but once again a way to hire more of those hackers for my personal, let's say, service or army, testing them on a real world scenario with something that I know they will go and do when I hire them. It could be something that I'd appreciate, depending on the kind of expectations I have, right? Especially if I want them to be ready from day one, and I'm not expecting to do any training, I'm not expecting to do any periods of adaptation to go from games and hobby to something real and gather information from governments and organizations. So once again, in a scenario which is very far from what I'm used to, of course, this could be something that I could expect and I could understand. Once again, just assumptions, no evidence of that. But I would expect something like that from China, honestly.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, you never know. Like, it's like you just have to test it. Like, if you are a military person, if you want to test something in the real world, that's what you do, right? So, yeah, that might be the reason behind the CTF challenge. But yeah, a lot of things happens in China that's that we doesn't know, but we know this part that we can investigate. So, yeah, that's something interesting.
Yeah, we surely. I mean, at least I'm sure interested in the in the talk they'll do at the conference. So I'll try to keep myself posted and maybe let you all know what's happened. Uh,
Yeah.
After this. The only last point I want to cover about this news is the fact that if we even outside the CTFs and even outside China, we know that in the security industry there's a high demand, right? Or at least there's a high demand for very skilled people and professionals. And this is not anything new, that when you when you have an image in the industry and in the community because you are good, because you have presented some good work at conferences around the world and so on and so forth, and especially when you are involved in offensive kind of operations, penetration testing, red teaming, and so on and so forth, and your daily job is to find vulnerabilities and 0-day, especially in software that you use out there. A lot of people are being reached out privately to be hired, once again, by other countries, by companies and organizations they didn't even know, and they are being offered a lot of money because possibly what they are going to be involved in is not, let's say, entirely legally or entire, let's say, ethical, and so on and so forth. So once again, there are so many people who are generally interested in the industry, and I think it's a good thing, of course. But I think we must tell them also this kind of stuff, right? That there is another, let's say, aspect of it that we should be aware of. Of course, it's all about you and yourself specifically, your ethical beliefs and so on and so forth. And of course, legal is it's another thing, but that's the thing as well. And I believe that especially if you are involved in very high-end competitions out there, I'm expecting anyone to be contacted for any sketchy thing. It didn't happen to me. Maybe I'm not that good. Maybe because I'm not involved in offenses specifically. But still, I know about people who did. So it's an interesting point as well. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that said, I think we are good to go to the final news of today. So this also, now that you're making me think about it, this is another thing that just a lot of assumptions out there that made this piece of news very, very commonly shared across social media. And a lot of people were basically screaming and shouting about cyber war, cyber attacks in actual wars, which is kind of a delicate topic, honestly, and especially with the current context around the world. And I thought it was a good idea to just talk about it, at least to make some clarifications and maybe slow down this kind of discussion a little bit. So what I'm talking about is that just a week ago there was this news about basically physical explosions in Lebanon, who actually killed and affected a lot of people. We're talking about, I'm reading here, more than 2,700 people in there. And apparently and allegedly, these explosions were caused by some pagers and actually other communication devices that I've read in other news after this one. The thing was that when these very first stories were published, a lot of people started, discussing that these pagers were maybe hacked and they were potentially being, I don't know, flooded with messages or with anything that was, heating the batteries too much at the point that the batteries themselves would explode and cause damages. And they will call them some kind of cyber war operations in order to affect physical damage to the other party. Now, cyber warfare, cyber war, it's something that is being discussed a lot. There has been few real real world scenarios in the past, but and this is something that is very well explained in the article. So once again, I invite you everyone to read it all. The thing is that if you just do some very easy logical conclusions, the batteries inside such pagers, and there are the very specific models in there, do not have so big batteries that could cause such explosions, that could cause such damages. So it's really unlikely, and it's not me saying it, right? There are other and a lot of experts saying that it's not enough to cause such damages. So the most likely thing here is that they were actually charged with some actual explosive inside it and distributed to the party. Now, once again, I'll stop there and see what you think about it.
So yeah, you pretty much covered the whole article, which I wanted to say too. So whatever happened since last 1 week, we have only very limited piece of evidence, like what caused, what happened, how it's happened, and everything. So I read in a different news article when I heard about the news, like some U.S. government investigators investigated the scenario and said like it's not a cyber attack. You cannot send some commands to a pager and make your battery explode. Just a AAA batteries. Even if you make it explode, it doesn't cause that much harm. It's like maybe a small scratch on your maybe wherever you're holding it. Maybe it's small burns, but there's like 2,700 people injured. That's like a huge scale. That must be something, a small scale of what you call explosives set up in those pagers or headsets and everything.
Right.
So one thing, it clearly says there is some breach in supply chain industry in Hezbollah. So
Right.
that's one thing. And the second thing is, before going to, they must have done it before going to the war. It's not after the war, right? It's like I'm like, I don't know how it works, like in wartime, how supply chain industry works. Is like we only know the regular enterprise, their supply chain and everything, but we don't know how it works when your country is at war, right? So it's definitely a breach in the supply chain industry. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, we don't know how long it's been planned for. We don't know if it is being, because those pages are not new. Those are being in existence for a long time. They just started using it because they don't want to compromise their mobile devices, because it's a smartphone. They don't want to compromise the communication, so they're using pages. Like, they just went old school. So they can't produce a new pages right now. So they're just using the existing ones. So the big question is, how are they able to plan the explosives? It's like, do they have? Are they planning it for from a long time, or are they planning it from after the war? They send some men into the country. I don't know how it works, but that's what I was thinking. And again, Israel, you know about Israel's Iron Dome, right? They have a protection on their country. Like, if you send even like 100 missiles, their Iron Dome will detect and neutralize all those missiles and everything. I don't know how many people know. They even have the similar thing for cybersecurity. They call it Cyber Dome.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they have their R&D is like way advanced than what we see in like news. So like, again, Israel, they never shared the information to the outside world. They just said like, hey, they're building something like a Cyber Dome, similar to the Iron Dome, what they have physically, and to either for them to attack or for them to protect from other cyber attacks. So again, it's either I cannot call it a cyber attack, but again, it's a supply chain industry breach. Somehow it happened. We just have to wait for the more details and before call it a cyber attack.
Something that it's interesting for me is why do we as an industry rush in trying to find some cyber warfare thing? It seems to me that a lot of people get excited in a bad way, if you ask me, right? Like, we are rushing into finding like first evidences of such cyber war, and I don't know if that's part because of entrepreneurs looking for more ways to make money, possibly, or even as employees deciding that, that looks something coming from a movie, so it appears something that maybe some people could be and will be involved in. Honestly, I'm not, but that's just me. And at the same time, I understand that, as you said, Israel is very well known for their capabilities, cyber capabilities in general, right? A lot of very famous startups are basically starting from people who worked in their services in the army, and I feel like a lot of people are doing this kind of reasoning. Okay, this is Israel, which is very advanced. There is a war inside, so it must be cyber, or at least a part of it must be cyber. And I think, to this very day, cyber is still very, very distant from a real war, or at least, is still possibly just associated with the espionage part, which is a big deal, of course, but it's not going to cause physical damage directly, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. Do you think? Did you have the same thoughts about this?
Honestly, without having more information, I cannot speak. That's the first thing. And the second thing is like when you said like people excited about marking this as a cybersecurity incident or something like that, is like, one thing I started my cybersecurity community, is because I see like, maybe if there is like 100 influencers online, this particularly cybersecurity or IT security, or basically IT influencers, they always try to make something controversial and try to gain followers. They don't care about
That's
like
true.
what exactly they're trying to get, what they're what kind of information they're pushing into the followers or something like that. I see like a lot of misinformation going around. And with this misinformation, one thing I learned as a content creator is like, even for you or even for me or for average human, if you're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or social media or anything, your attention span for a post is like 3 seconds. That's it. So
That's true.
you cannot convey the whole evidences and everything like a whole white paper in those 3 seconds. You just look at the headline: Hezbollah attack, is it a cyber attack? And that's what you keep thinking. And next time if someone asks you, is like, hey, that might be a cyber attack. You don't even know. You just read some article and saying like, hey, this might be a cyber attack, and he thinks the same. It's like it's always misinformation spreading everywhere. So all I'm trying to say is like, just take a couple of minutes, read everything, and try to understand what exactly going on, because it may or may not be a cyber attack, but we never know. We don't even know how it happened, or people still investigating. And so they even saying like this might be a new era of war, because this is the first time happening in the like our lifetime. Like something, all of a sudden your devices start exploding. Like this is more of a psychological attack, I would say, rather than cyber
Right?
attack. Like
Yeah, I
they
agree with
want to
that.
terrify people holding to the electronic device. They just want to cut the communication. There's like a kind of they're just trying to divide the communication with the humans. And we should think in different ways. So
I want to try to expand that topic a little bit, right? Because it is true, maybe some I don't know, influencers or content creators could contribute to it. People that just want possibly some attention, or once again, that maybe the more attention they get, the more money potentially they can do. But at the same time, and I know this because in identifying the actual articles and news, it takes a lot of time, because you don't want to take the first one you find. You want to take something that has some good research behind it, that you can share with the community. And I think some part of it is also due to journalists and writers in general, because I think today cyber is kind of a fancy thing, and everyone knows something about it. I can even speak to my to my dad or mom, who knows anything but working in front of a computer, and still knows that at the TV or on the newspaper something related to computer happened, or some company was halted because a ransomware attack or something. And I feel like to get more clicks on those news sites and newspaper, if you put in there cyber attack, it apparently looks and sounds a lot more interesting for some people. This is a war. Sadly, it's a moment of the history which these things are happening, and the interested in war related news for the people will decrease a little bit every day. And if you put a new word in there, like you say, oh, cyber attack by Israel, targeting pages that are exploding, that's a lot of words that altogether sounds very fancy. So I
yeah,
feel like also there's some awareness that we need to spread across journalists as well. And I'm not
yeah,
talking about the ones that are writing this news I'm sharing right now, because
yeah.
those are actually very good. But these are actually exceptions.
That's the difference. Like back in like 20 years ago, we have like the highest technology I think we have in our hands is SMS, I guess. The fastest piece of information that we can share, like 20 years ago, that too with handheld devices like a keypad ones. So at that time, your main source of information is a newspaper, and all you can read is like whatever that's in the newspaper, and you cannot read more. But right now, you have like huge amount of information in your hands. It's like the more you scroll, the more information you take it. And the thing is like, it's getting out of hands. We cannot ask each and every person to, hey, limit your scrolling, or stop reading this. You have to read like that or something like that. We cannot ask people to do that. But the only thing is like, we have to start doing more awareness programs. So that's the whole reason I started my page, like helping even the students. It's like people always try to gain the followers or to gain the money or something like that. They always try to add some misinformation to the actual the actual article, and they try to make money. So that's what I'm trying to do with my community, like try to spread the awareness, like what I would call is like democratize cybersecurity. It's like no like no stupid articles or no misinformation, just plain news or something like that. That's what I'm trying to work on right now. But yeah, let's see how it goes.
It's a big challenge, right?
Yeah, it's a big
Especially
challenge.
in in our environment, because it's still, I feel like it's still pretty new,
Yeah,
for the broader audience.
yeah,
And I think it's very important to have people like you trying to do something good out of it. And I've had a lot of very good content creators or just professionals, and I've also had some very good authors and journalists as guests in the news there that are doing a very great job at it. But the point is that if you compare it to the totality of the people out there talking about cybersecurity, it's still a very very small percentage, and that's a bad thing. You said it, that of course we cannot ask everyone to be aware of it, to be experts in this, so they cannot fall for misinformation and scams and so on and so forth. But possibly what we could do, and I think we are trying to do as a community, is to have more good content creators, have more really aware journalists that are very, I'm a tech person, I'm a technical person, I'm working in the cybersecurity industry, and still I've spoken with journalists which know incredibly a lot about cybersecurity, even though they are not, security practitioners. If you think about it, and I think if those people can do that, also other people working for other news sites and journals can do a very good job at it. They just have to, of course, study, learn about it, and do a lot more research before just writing the news because they want to get some viewers. And once again, there are some very great people at Wired, and I'm asking myself, why do Wired has a lot of very good news and all their websites actually have a lot of very bad stuff? They're just in the same business, so you can actually do it well, right?
yeah.
So to the people watching this, I just feel, do your own research to select the people and authors and creators and journalists that you are following and reading about, because that's going to change a lot about just your own awareness every time you read the news out there. um, okay, honestly, that's already close to an hour. I'm so grateful for you, joining me, Dev. I'm always very happy because at the very least I've had a very good conversation, and I have met a new person from the industry, which is always a very good thing. And I believe just this little discussion we had could be a little helpful for the people out there watching this. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
me in the podcast. It's like, thank you for taking time. I really appreciate it.
That's great. And thank you for all the people watching this. Just as a reminder, this is live on YouTube. It will remain available on the channel, and new episodes will come out kind of every week. So stay tuned and possibly subscribe to the channel. Or if you prefer, just audio podcasts, it's gonna be pushed into Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so on and so forth. So have a look at it, and thank you for joining us. And have a nice day, evening, or whatever. See you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.